even in banking, I was fashion conscious because I had to look a certain way for my job. And started out as an assistant to someone and ended up becoming the vice president of the industrial lending section. And I traveled all over the world with it. It was great fun. Great fun.
So let's go back to 27
Yeah.
when you were in the bank. So till now that you came back to the modeling scene. At those time, did you feel like there was something you were missing out in the fashion space or?
Actually, yeah, because I love fashion. When I look at designers such as yourself, I look at not only just what you wear and what you're making, but I think of what goes into that. I miss the creative side of fashion because even now when I go shopping, the model comes out of me because I'm looking at structure, I'm looking at design,
The silhouette.
the silhouette of how it's going to look on me. So being in banking, because I wore suits all the time and dresses, I was always conscious of what was going on in the fashion world. You can't always wear a Chanel suit, you have to have a variance of what you wear. And so even in banking, I was fashion conscious because I had to look a certain way for my job. So I missed the actual runway walking and the magazine photography of fashion, but I didn't miss the physical part of wearing fashion because I was afforded the opportunity through my job that I could go into a designer store or Saks Fifth Avenue or one of the bigger Harrods here and buy designer clothes to wear. So I never really left the fashion world because I needed to look, I guess, posh for my job. I had to look like a businesswoman. I had to stand a certain way. I had to have a certain presence. So banking actually kept me in fashion, quite honestly.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
So then let's dwell a bit more
Okay.
in the banking age. During your time working in the bank, what would you say like are the most vital lessons you learned during this time?
Oh my goodness. I didn't physically work in the bank. I worked for a bank, but I was most of the time outside the bank. I traveled with that. For me, it was learning because I worked with different cultured people from different countries. It was learning the patience of dealing with different people's backgrounds. Because when you're in fashion, you're dealing with designers and you're dealing with other models and you're dealing with photographer. In banking, you're dealing not only with that one person, the person that you're talking to about doing a loan for or structuring something for. You're working with their whole group of people. So you have to learn to look at personalities when people talk to you. First off, when you're talking to someone, look them in the eye, because looking someone in the eye tells you a lot about the person. Are they blinking a lot? Are they moving their head a lot? What are they doing that gives you clues as to whether or not you're saying something that they're not quite understanding, or they actually are thinking about it and rethinking about how maybe they're actually thinking about doing their business. So I learned patience. I've learned to observe people more. I've learned to look people in the eye and to listen intently. Yeah. So those are the things I learned, which I didn't have in fashion, because in fashion, as you well know, you have someone who's sewing clothes on you, and they're fixing your hair the way they want your hair. They're putting your makeup on the way they want your makeup. Being in the business world is entirely different. You're observing all the things that are going on around you, and you're observing all the people around you, and you're assessing everything they're saying, and they're assessing everything you're saying. So you need to be aware of how people's expressions are coming back to you, I guess, too. Yeah, it's entirely different. It's entirely different world. I mean, it's like two worlds colliding, quite honestly, the business world and the fashion world. Although now fashion is big business.
Yes. Yes.
But again, so when you go to walk in a fashion show, that designer's putting you in a suit that he thinks looks good on you. It doesn't matter what you think.
Yeah. It is the designer's imagination.
Yeah. And you have to respect that. In the business world, you can go in and go, yeah, I totally disagree with you. We're not going to do it that way. You don't do that in fashion. So that's a big difference also, is that know when you're right and know when to be quiet.